During my decades studying economic policy, I discovered something counterintuitive. The very programs designed to help the poor often trap them in poverty. The evidence is overwhelming, yet politicians continue proposing the same failed solutions. When we examine welfare programs objectively, we find they create dependency rather than opportunity, destroy incentives for self-improvement, and perpetuate the very conditions they claim to solve. This isn't ideology speaking, it's empirical evidence accumulated over 50 years of welfare state expansion. The data shows that government anti-poverty programs consistently produce outcomes opposite to their stated intentions. Today, I'll share the hard evidence that market-based solutions, not government dependency programs, create genuine pathways out of poverty. The choice isn't between compassion and cruelty, it's between what works and what fails, between empowerment and dependency. Chapter 1: The Welfare Trap: How Good Intentions Create Bad Outcomes. The fundamental flaw in government anti-poverty programs lies in their perverse incentive structure. When I analyzed welfare systems during my research at the University of Chicago, the pattern became clear: these programs punish the very behaviors that lead to economic advancement. Consider a single mother receiving welfare benefits. If she finds part-time work, her benefits decrease dollar for dollar with her earnings. This creates an effective marginal tax rate of 100% or higher, a rate we would never impose on the wealthy. The rational response: don't work. The evidence is stark. Before the Great Society programs of the 1960s, black unemployment was lower than white unemployment. Single motherhood rates were declining across all ethnic groups. Yet after trillions spent on welfare programs, these conditions worsened dramatically. The poverty rate, which had been falling steadily since World War II, essentially flatlined once welfare expanded. This isn't coincidence, it's cause and effect. Consider housing assistance programs. They concentrate poor families in specific areas, creating pockets of dependency and social dysfunction. Children grow up seeing welfare as normal, learning that work doesn't pay. This isn't compassion, it's a system that perpetuates the conditions it claims to address. The empirical evidence shows that generous welfare states often maintain higher poverty rates than countries with more limited programs, precisely because they destroy the incentives for economic mobility. The fundamental flaw in government anti-poverty programs lies in their perverse incentive structure. When I analyzed welfare systems during my research at the University of Chicago, the pattern became clear: these programs punish the very behaviors that lead to economic advancement. Consider a single mother receiving welfare benefits. If she finds part-time work, her benefits decrease dollar for dollar with her earnings. This creates an effective marginal tax rate of 100% or higher, a rate we would never impose on the wealthy. The rational response: don't work. The evidence is stark. Before the Great Society programs of the 1960s, black unemployment was lower than white unemployment. Single motherhood rates were declining across all ethnic groups. Yet after trillions spent on welfare programs, these conditions worsened dramatically. The poverty rate, which had been falling steadily since World War II, essentially flatlined once welfare expanded. This isn't coincidence, it's cause and effect. Consider housing assistance programs. They concentrate poor families in specific areas, creating pockets of dependency and social dysfunction. Children grow up seeing welfare as normal, learning that work doesn't pay. This isn't compassion, it's a system that perpetuates the conditions it claims to address. The empirical evidence shows that generous welfare states often maintain higher poverty rates than countries with more limited programs, precisely because they destroy the incentives for economic mobility. Chapter 2: The Economics of Dependency: How Welfare Destroys Human Capital. The most devastating effect of welfare programs isn't their immediate cost, it's their destruction of human capital. During my years studying labor economics, I observed how welfare systems systematically discourage the behaviors that build skills, character, and economic value. When government provides unconditional support, it eliminates the natural incentives that drive human development and achievement. Consider the historical record. Before massive welfare expansion, poor families prioritized education for their children as the path to advancement. Parents sacrificed to keep children in school, viewing education as investment in future prosperity. Welfare changed this calculation. Why struggle for academic achievement when government benefits provide immediate support? Educational performance among welfare-dependent populations declined precisely as benefits expanded. The data is unambiguous. Children from welfare-dependent families are less likely to graduate high school, less likely to develop work habits, and more likely to become welfare-dependent themselves. This intergenerational transmission of dependency creates what economists call human capital depreciation, the systematic erosion of skills, ambition, and productive capacity across generations. Work provides more than income, it develops character, skills, and social connections essential for economic advancement. When welfare substitutes for work, it deprives recipients of these crucial development opportunities. The unemployed construction worker loses not just current income but skills, connections, and work habits that determine future earning capacity. Extended dependency creates a downward spiral where human capital deteriorates, making eventual employment even more difficult. The evidence from natural experiments is compelling. During economic expansions when jobs are plentiful, welfare roles should shrink as opportunities increase. Instead, many welfare systems maintain stable populations regardless of economic conditions. This suggests dependency has become self-reinforcing, disconnected from actual economic opportunity. Recipients have lost the human capital necessary to respond to improved conditions. International comparisons reinforce this conclusion. Countries with generous, unconditional welfare systems consistently show lower social mobility than those emphasizing temporary assistance combined with work requirements. Switzerland and Singapore, with limited welfare but strong educational systems and economic freedom, show much higher rates of poverty escape than European welfare states. The difference isn't cultural, it's institutional. The psychological effects compound the economic damage. Learned helplessness develops when individuals lose belief in their ability to improve their circumstances through effort. Welfare systems that provide unconditional support inadvertently teach recipients that their actions don't matter, that external forces control their destiny. This psychological dependency may be more destructive than economic dependency because it prevents individuals from recognizing and seizing opportunities when they arise. Chapter 3: Government Monopolies: How Bureaucracy Serves Itself, Not the Poor. The welfare bureaucracy has become a perfect example of what economists call public choice theory, the idea that government employees and agencies pursue their own interests rather than stated public goals. During my analysis of government programs, I discovered that welfare systems are designed to perpetuate themselves, not eliminate poverty. The empirical evidence shows bureaucratic incentives systematically work against program success. Consider the perverse metrics used to measure welfare program effectiveness. Success is measured by caseload size, budget increases, and benefits distributed, never by the number of people who achieve independence and leave the system. A welfare administrator who successfully moves half their clients to self-sufficiency would see their budget cut and staff reduced. Their reward for success would be unemployment. Rational bureaucrats therefore work to maintain and expand their client base, not eliminate it. The complexity of welfare systems serves bureaucratic rather than client interests. A typical welfare recipient must navigate dozens of different programs, each with its own eligibility requirements, application processes, and bureaucratic gatekeepers. This complexity ensures clients remain dependent on caseworkers to access benefits, creating what economists call bureaucratic capture, where the system serves administrators rather than recipients. The evidence is overwhelming. Administrative costs for welfare programs often exceed 30% of total spending, money that never reaches the poor. In contrast, private charities typically operate with administrative costs below 10%. The difference isn't efficiency, it's incentive structure. Private charities compete for donors and must demonstrate results. Government agencies face no such pressure. Think about this empirically. If welfare programs actually reduced poverty, we would expect declining caseloads and shrinking bureaucracies over time. Instead, we observe the opposite. Welfare bureaucracies have grown exponentially while poverty rates remain stable. This suggests the system is working exactly as designed, to provide employment for middle-class bureaucrats, not assistance for the poor. The knowledge problem compounds these incentive issues. Central planners lack the local knowledge necessary to design effective anti-poverty strategies. They cannot know individual circumstances, local economic conditions, or cultural factors that determine what assistance would actually help specific families escape poverty. This information exists only at the individual level and cannot be aggregated into bureaucratic planning models. Private charitable organizations historically solved this knowledge problem through local involvement and personal relationships. Charity workers knew their clients personally, understood their specific circumstances, and could provide targeted assistance that addressed root causes rather than symptoms. Government welfare replaced this personal knowledge with bureaucratic categories and standardized benefits that ignore individual differences. The result is predictable: assistance poorly matched to actual needs, resources wasted on administrative overhead, and systematic incentives that maintain rather than eliminate poverty. The welfare bureaucracy has become an end in itself, a vast employment program for the middle class funded by taxes on productive citizens and administered in the name of helping the poor. Real reform would recognize these institutional failures and restore the voluntary, competitive system that actually serves the poor effectively. Chapter 4: Historical Evidence: When Markets Lifted More People from Poverty. The historical record provides unambiguous evidence that free markets, not government programs, create genuine prosperity for the poor. During my study of economic history, I documented how market-based economies consistently outperform centrally planned alternatives in reducing absolute poverty and creating opportunities for advancement. The data spans centuries and cultures, yet the pattern remains consistent. Consider America's historical experience. From 1900 to 1960, before massive welfare expansion, poverty rates fell dramatically through economic growth and opportunity. Real wages increased steadily, home ownership expanded, and educational attainment rose across all ethnic groups. This progress occurred without government anti-poverty programs. Indeed, it occurred because government stayed out of the way, allowing markets to create wealth and opportunity. The Great Depression provides a natural experiment. New Deal programs extended economic suffering by interfering with market adjustments necessary for recovery. Unemployment remained above 15% throughout the 1930s despite massive government spending. Only World War II, which effectively ended New Deal programs and redirected resources to productive use, restored full employment. The lesson is clear: government intervention prolongs poverty rather than eliminating it. International evidence reinforces this conclusion. Hong Kong and Singapore, with minimal welfare states but strong property rights and economic freedom, achieved remarkable poverty reduction through market-based growth. Meanwhile, countries with extensive welfare systems often maintain persistent poverty despite massive government spending. Sweden's generous welfare state, for example, created unemployment rates above 8% during the 1990s despite enormous social spending. The most compelling evidence comes from economic liberalization experiences. When Chile reformed its economy in the 1980s, reducing government intervention and expanding market freedom, poverty rates fell from 45% to 15% within 2 decades. Similar reforms in Ireland, Estonia, and New Zealand produced comparable results. The pattern is consistent: economic freedom creates prosperity, government control maintains poverty. Even within the United States, states with more limited welfare systems consistently show higher economic mobility than those with generous benefits. Texas and Tennessee, with lower welfare benefits but stronger economies, show higher rates of poverty escape than Michigan or Illinois with their extensive social programs. People vote with their feet, migrating from high welfare, low opportunity states to low welfare, high opportunity states. The mechanism is straightforward. Free markets create incentives for productive behavior, skill development, and innovation. Competition rewards those who serve consumer needs effectively, regardless of their background or circumstances. This creates genuine opportunities for advancement based on merit rather than political connections or bureaucratic favoritism. Historical evidence shows that private charity, operating through voluntary associations and religious organizations, was remarkably effective at helping the deserving poor while maintaining work incentives. These organizations could distinguish between temporary hardship requiring assistance and long-term dependency requiring intervention. Government welfare eliminated these distinctions, treating all poverty as permanent conditions requiring indefinite support. The result has been institutionalized dependency rather than temporary assistance leading to independence. Chapter 5: The Negative Income Tax, a market-based alternative that actually works. Rather than expanding failed welfare bureaucracies, I proposed a radical alternative: the negative income tax. This market-based approach would eliminate the perverse incentives of current welfare systems while providing genuine assistance to those in need. The empirical evidence from pilot programs demonstrates its superiority over traditional welfare approaches. The concept is elegantly simple. Instead of a complex maze of different welfare programs, each with its own bureaucracy and eligibility requirements, provide direct cash assistance through the tax system. Those earning below a threshold receive supplemental income, while those above it pay taxes. This eliminates welfare cliffs, reduces administrative costs, and maintains work incentives throughout the income spectrum. Consider how this solves the fundamental problems of current welfare systems. Unlike traditional welfare, benefits decrease gradually as earnings increase, never creating situations where working more results in lower total income. A single mother earning $10,000 might receive $10,000 might receive $10,000 might receive $8,000 in negative income tax, giving her total income of $18,000. If she earns $18,000, if she earns $18,000. If she earns $15,000, she might receive $6,000 for total income of $6,000 for total income of $6,000 for total income of $21,000. Working more always means higher total income, exactly the incentive structure needed to promote self-sufficiency. The administrative advantages are enormous. Instead of maintaining separate bureaucracies for food stamps, housing assistance, Medicaid, and dozens of other programs, the Internal Revenue Service could administer negative income tax through existing mechanisms. This would eliminate most welfare bureaucracy, reducing administrative costs from 30% of program spending to perhaps 3%. The savings could either reduce program costs or increase assistance to recipients. Pilot programs in Seattle, Denver, and New Jersey during the 1970s provided empirical evidence of the system's effectiveness. Contrary to critics' predictions, work effort declined only modestly, less than traditional welfare programs. More importantly, recipients used the flexibility of cash assistance to invest in education, job training, and small business ventures that increased their long-term earning capacity. The political advantages are equally compelling. Negative income tax eliminates the distinction between welfare recipients and taxpayers. Everyone participates in the same system. This reduces the stigma associated with assistance while building broader political support for helping the poor. Recipients retain dignity and choice rather than being subjected to bureaucratic micromanagement of their daily lives. Critics argue that direct cash assistance would be wasted on drugs or luxury goods. The evidence contradicts this concern. Recipients of cash assistance consistently spend money on basic necessities, food, housing, transportation, and children's needs. They prove more capable of managing their own affairs than bureaucrats who have never experienced poverty themselves. The targeting efficiency of negative income tax far exceeds current welfare systems. Benefits go directly to those with low incomes rather than being captured by middle-class bureaucrats or diverted to political constituencies. This ensures that limited resources reach those who need them most rather than supporting vast administrative apparatus. Most importantly, negative income tax preserves market mechanisms while providing a safety net. Recipients participate in the regular economy, making choices and facing consequences like everyone else. This maintains the character-building aspects of market participation while ensuring no one falls below a minimum standard of living. It's genuine compassion implemented through market mechanisms rather than bureaucratic control. Chapter 6: Regulation and Licensing. How Government Blocks Poor People from Working. One of the most pernicious ways government perpetuates poverty is through occupational licensing and regulatory barriers that prevent low-skilled workers from starting businesses or entering professions. During my research on labor markets, I discovered that these regulations, supposedly designed to protect consumers, actually protect established businesses from competition while blocking the poor from economic opportunity. Consider the absurdity of current licensing requirements. In many states, braiding hair requires hundreds of hours of training and expensive licenses, despite posing no public safety risk. The real purpose isn't consumer protection, it's preventing low-income entrepreneurs, particularly immigrant women, from competing with established salons. These barriers force poor people into unemployment rather than allowing them to use their skills productively. The empirical evidence is damning. States with more extensive occupational licensing have lower rates of economic mobility and higher unemployment among low-skilled workers. Louisiana requires licenses for 71 different occupations. Florida requires licenses for 55. Not coincidentally, these states show lower rates of small business formation and entrepreneurship among poor communities. The regulations explicitly prevent the bottom rungs of the economic ladder from existing. Taxi regulations provide another clear example. Cities that restrict taxi licenses create artificial scarcity that benefits existing license holders while preventing poor immigrants from starting small transportation businesses. Uber and Lyft succeeded precisely because they circumvented these regulatory barriers, creating opportunities for hundreds of thousands of low-income drivers. Government's response: more regulations to protect the old system. Food truck regulations demonstrate the same pattern. Cities impose complex permitting requirements, location restrictions, and arbitrary rules that make it nearly impossible for aspiring entrepreneurs to start food businesses. These regulations don't protect public health, they protect established restaurants from competition. The result is fewer opportunities for immigrants and low-skilled workers to build wealth through small business ownership. Professional licensing extends far beyond occupations requiring genuine expertise. Interior designers, florists, and hair braiders need government permission to work in many states. These requirements have nothing to do with public safety and everything to do with limiting competition. They force poor people to either work illegally in underground economies or remain unemployed. The housing sector shows how building codes and zoning laws prevent poor people from creating affordable housing solutions. Regulations prohibit tiny houses, limit rooming houses, and require expensive building standards that make low-cost housing illegal. The result? Housing shortages that force poor families into homelessness or overcrowded conditions. Government creates the housing crisis, then proposes more government programs to solve it. International evidence reinforces these conclusions. Countries with fewer regulatory barriers consistently show higher rates of entrepreneurship and economic mobility. Peru's economist Hernando de Soto documented how regulatory barriers keep the poor trapped in informal economies, unable to accumulate capital or build legitimate businesses. The solution isn't more regulation, it's eliminating barriers that prevent productive economic activity. The psychology of regulation reveals why these barriers persist. Middle-class professionals benefit from regulations that limit competition, while poor people lack political influence to oppose them. Regulatory capture ensures that existing businesses write the rules that govern their industries, always in ways that prevent new competition. The poor pay the price through reduced opportunities and higher consumer prices. Chapter 7: School Choice: Breaking the Education Monopoly That Traps Poor Children. The most tragic way government perpetuates poverty is through its education monopoly that traps poor children in failing schools while wealthy families exercise choice through private schools or residential mobility. My research on education economics revealed that school choice, allowing poor families the same educational options available to the wealthy, provides the most effective anti-poverty program possible. The empirical evidence is overwhelming. Poor children in school choice programs consistently outperform their peers trapped in assigned district schools. The Milwaukee Voucher Program, one of the longest-running experiments, shows participating students gaining additional months of learning each year compared to traditional public school students. These gains compound over time, creating dramatic differences in lifetime earning potential. Consider the fundamental injustice of the current system. Wealthy families can choose between private schools, excellent suburban public schools, or even international schools. Poor families are assigned to whatever school serves their neighborhood, regardless of quality. This educational apartheid ensures that poverty perpetuates across generations. School choice would eliminate this inequality by giving all families the power to select their children's education. The economic logic is inescapable. Competition improves performance in every industry. Why should education be different? When schools must compete for students, they improve quality, reduce costs, and innovate to meet family needs. The monopoly public school system faces no such pressures, which explains its consistent failure to educate poor children effectively. International evidence supports this conclusion. Countries with school choice systems consistently outperform those with centralized education monopolies. Chile's voucher system improved student performance across all income levels while reducing per-pupil costs. Sweden's school choice reforms produced similar results. The pattern is universal. Competition improves education quality while reducing inequality. The bureaucratic resistance to school choice reveals whose interests the current system serves. Teacher unions and education bureaucrats oppose choice not because it harms children, but because it threatens their monopoly power. They prefer a captive student population to the accountability that comes with parental choice. Their opposition proves that the system serves adult employees rather than student learners. Critics claim school choice would drain resources from public schools, harming students who remain. The evidence contradicts this concern. Studies consistently show that students in public schools improve when nearby schools face competition from choice programs. Competition forces improvement throughout the system, benefiting all students rather than just those who exercise choice. The targeting efficiency of school choice programs exceeds traditional education spending. Vouchers go directly to disadvantaged families who use them to purchase quality education. Current education spending often benefits middle-class suburban districts more than poor urban schools despite rhetoric about equity. School choice ensures resources reach the families who need them most. The long-term anti-poverty effects of educational choice cannot be overstated. Children who receive quality education through choice programs show higher graduation rates, college attendance, and lifetime earnings. They escape the cycle of poverty that traps families in failing schools and limited opportunities. Education choice doesn't just improve individual outcomes, it breaks intergenerational poverty transmission. The moral case for school choice is equally compelling. Parents, not bureaucrats, should control their children's education. Poor families deserve the same educational choices available to wealthy families. Denying choice based on income violates basic principles of equality and opportunity that define American values. Conclusion. The evidence is clear. Government anti-poverty programs create more poverty than they solve. Welfare systems trap families in dependency, destroy work incentives, and prevent human capital development. Bureaucratic monopolies serve administrators rather than the poor. Regulatory barriers block economic opportunity for low-skilled workers. Education monopolies perpetuate intergenerational poverty. These aren't unintended consequences. They're predictable results of replacing market mechanisms with government control. The solution isn't more of the same failed policies. It's restoring choice, competition, and opportunity through free markets. Negative income tax, occupational deregulation, and school choice would do more to reduce poverty than all existing welfare programs combined. We must choose between systems that work and systems that sound good. The evidence favors freedom every time.